Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events from around the world. I'm your host, Walter. Today, we're going to explore a complex and timely story that highlights the challenges faced by refugees and migrants in their quest for safety and stability. As we've been following recent developments in the Middle East, a 12-day war between Israel and Iran has had far-reaching consequences, including a significant impact on Afghan refugees living in Iran. According to reports, over 1 million Afghans have been forced to return to their home country, where they face an uncertain future under Taliban rule. The Iranian government has been criticized for its handling of the situation, with many arguing that the deportations were carried out without regard for international standards. Refugees have reported being arbitrarily arrested and deported, often without access to basic necessities like food, shelter, or medical care. We've spoken to Afghan human rights activists who describe the situation as a humanitarian catastrophe. The returnees are joining a population of nearly 23 million people in Afghanistan who already rely on humanitarian aid, putting a strain on the country's limited resources. It's essential to acknowledge the complexities of this issue and the various factors at play. On one hand, Iran is facing its own economic and social challenges, which may have contributed to the decision to deport the refugees. On the other hand, the Afghan refugees have been living in Iran for years, often without access to basic rights and services. As we continue to follow this story, it's crucial to consider the human cost of these policies and the long-term consequences for the individuals and families affected. We'll be exploring this topic further, including the reactions from the international community and the potential implications for regional stability. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into the world of international trade and diplomacy, where tensions are rising between the United States and India. In a recent development, President Donald Trump has threatened to substantially raise tariffs against India over its purchase of oil from Russia. This move comes just days after Trump unveiled a 25% levy on India, which Delhi has called unjustified and unreasonable. To break it down, India is currently one of the largest buyers of Russian oil, and this has become an important export market for Moscow after several European countries cut trade ties following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The U.S. president claims that India is not only buying massive amounts of Russian oil, but also selling it on the open market for big profits, which he believes is unacceptable given the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. However, India's foreign ministry has pushed back against these claims, stating that the country began importing Russian oil to stabilize global energy markets after traditional supplies were diverted to Europe. They also pointed out that the U.S. itself still trades with Russia, despite imposing tough sanctions and tariffs. It's a complex issue, and both sides have valid points. The situation is further complicated by the fact that India's oil refineries operate independently of the government and decide where to buy crude oil based on factors like price, supply security, and export rules. So, it's not entirely accurate to say that India is deliberately trying to profit from Russian oil sales. As the U.S. and India navigate this trade dispute, it's essential to consider the broader implications for global energy markets and international relations. The U.S. has been a long-standing ally of India, but this recent development could potentially strain their relationship. We'll continue to monitor the situation and provide updates as more information becomes available. For now, it's clear that the world of international trade is becoming increasingly complex, with multiple players and interests at stake. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. I'm your host, Walter. We're closing out today's show with a story that's been making waves in the world of economics and politics. As you may know, the Trump administration has been imposing tariffs on various countries, including Canada, which has led to a trade war. But what you might not know is that some states and businesses are fighting back. Minnesota, for example, is among the states suing the Trump administration for imposing these tariffs without the approval of Congress. Senator Amy Klobuchar, a Democrat from Minnesota, has been vocal about her opposition to the tariffs, saying they're hurting small businesses and farmers in her state. She's not alone, as some Republicans have also expressed concerns about the impact of the tariffs on their constituents. But what's interesting is that, despite these concerns, many Republicans are still supporting the president's actions. Senator Klobuchar has criticized her colleagues for rubber-stamping the president's decisions, saying they're not doing enough to hold him accountable. However, she also acknowledges that there are areas of agreement between Democrats and Republicans, such as the issue of Canadian tariffs. The president has faced criticism for his handling of the economy, including his allegations that some weak job numbers were rigged. He even fired the top labor official, which has raised concerns about the integrity of the data. But experts say there's no evidence to support the president's claims, and that the numbers are simply a reflection of the current economic reality. As we wrap up this story, it's clear that the debate over tariffs and trade policy is complex and multifaceted. While some argue that the tariffs are necessary to protect American industries, others say they're hurting the very people they're meant to help. As always, we strive to bring you a balanced view of the issues, without taking sides or promoting any particular agenda. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.